Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Clear to Close podcast. My name is Carson Jones with Team Honey at Realty One Group Goldmark. And today I am here with a special guest. This is Colton Hill with 3Sixty Home Inspections here in St. George and all of Southern Utah. Welcome, Colton. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. So today we just want to kind of give our viewers and listeners a little bit of an idea of exactly why to get home inspections, what goes into it, what are the do's and don'ts of home inspections. And so Colton is somebody that I've used a lot in the past for most of my buyers' home inspections, and I recommend Colton a lot. And so I thought Colton would be a perfect guy to kind of come give you guys a little bit more knowledge on why you should get a home inspection, and then what's the reason to even worry about a home inspection. Some people might feel like, oh, there's no reason to even get it. I can look at it myself. And then all of a sudden 2 years down the line, they realize, wow, there's a lot wrong with this place that maybe I should have known about beforehand. So
yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about kind of what you do and what you've seen in the past of people who maybe decide not to get a home inspection and then realize later on that they probably should be.
Yeah, so we'll go through the house top to bottom, inside and out. And what's good with that is just with the tools, the experience, and the different things that we have. We can look, from the roof down, attic, foundation, all those types of things. There's a lot of things when you go through and look at a house when you're purchasing. You're looking at layouts and different things like that are going to work for what you have planned for your family.
Yeah.
We're going in looking at something completely different. We're going to try to look at the guts of the home. And the workings of the home and make sure that systems are running, give ages of systems and things like that. And what we found is when we do those inspections, the $300 to $400 for an average inspection is a pretty small fee compared to a lot of things that we can find. And game planning for, what do we want to fix? What do we want to get repaired now? What can we kind of, put down the line and plan for? And then also just kind of knowing, age of furnaces, water heaters, all that type of stuff that a lot of people otherwise wouldn't understand until it breaks or goes bad, which is typically going to end up costing more. And a lot of times if that's unexpected and unplanned, it can cause some problems and be scary for people. It's the biggest investment most people are going to make in their life. And so I think it's a small fee to have another set of eyes that are looking at something a little bit different to kind of get.
And how much do home inspections normally cost right now?
So right now, we would average between about $275 for a townhome condo type of situation up to $350 to $400. It's just going to base off square footage.
Yeah.
Is what it's going to be.
And you have options if somebody has a swimming pool that they want to have looked at. You can have somebody come over and look at that as well.
Yep, absolutely. So the base cost that we usually will quote first is for the home inspection itself with the report. That's going to be the inspection. It's going to also include your infrared or thermal imaging, which is going to look for any types of leaks or insulation concerns behind the walls or in the ceiling, stuff like that again, otherwise you might not be able to see with the naked eye, which is another reason why it's really good to have that inspection.
That's always been kind of one of my biggest things when I get these inspections for people, because they get the images back on their report of things that they can't see, right? You can't see it, and you get these big infrared cameras that go in there, and you can see if there's been water damage or whatever's going on inside the walls there.
Yeah.
Which is a very underrated factor, which even on a brand new home, you could find some pretty serious stuff on.
Yeah, and that camera's been really useful for us, and we actually when I first started, I've done it about 10 years now, and we weren't even using those unless it was an added fee and an added service. And what I found with it is there's no reason to have that as an added fee. That should always be done on
part
every
of it.
House.
Yeah.
Moisture meters, infrared cameras, stuff like that should be part of that basic inspection. And then back to what you were asking about the pools and the spas and things like that. Everything can be a package deal, and we can add things on as we go. So we can have the pool and the spa inspected, and it actually goes straight into the same inspection report. So it's all one clean report.
Okay.
But the reason why we like to do that separately is I actually have a different pool company come out and do the pool or spa inspection. The reason why is just they specialize in that every day.
Yeah.
That's all they do. So you're gonna get the best service, the best inspection from them.
And that's a good idea, because there's a lot of inspectors that don't really know a whole lot about the pool side of things, but they'll just do it just so they can make the extra money. So I like that you find somebody who's a professional specifically for that to do it for you.
Correct. Yeah. So we just want to get the best experience and stuff that we can out there to get those things done.
Awesome.
And then as far as we can always do like a radon test. You can do, we can do some mold testing, microbial stuff.
Is radon a pretty big thing in Southern Utah?
So we haven't found it a whole lot because we have a lot of the slab on grades. We have a lot
Yeah.
of the basement walkouts. We don't really have very many true traditional basements. That's generally where we'll usually get a higher reading.
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of them, up through the Wasatch Front and stuff like that. Utah County, Salt Lake County up.
And talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, is it so? It's a big cancer concern now. If you find high levels of radon,
it can be, yeah. And obviously, it's going to depend on the person, immune systems, and things like that. But that's what it's looking for. It's a gas, obviously that's found in there. And one thing that can scare people with radon is they get the radon test with the inspection. Say it comes back high. It's actually a pretty simple and easy fix to put those mitigation systems in.
Right.
And all that's going to do is it's going to create airflow. And that's gonna keep our radon levels down.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's actually a pretty easy repair or something to plan for if we get one back that's high. It's really,
but it's invisible, so it's one of those things where you have tests for it. You can't just assume it's not there.
Correct. Yeah. And there's quick kits that you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's. They're not going to be near as detailed as the test that we're going to go run through. The test that we use personally. Has to get recalibrated every 6 months.
Okay.
So it's highly detailed. It's going to give an hourly reading and then an average over the 48-hour window. So we typically like to test that for at least 48 hours and then come back and pick that monitor up.
Yeah, makes sense. So in St. George, I mean, do you go up to Cedar City as well?
Yep. So
Okay.
Right now we're covering just Iron County and Washington County.
Awesome.
I will go, different places here and there, but that's 95% of what we're doing.
And would you say most of it is not new construction, or you do a little bit of both?
A little bit of everything is what we're doing.
And I get a lot of questions from people buying like a new construction that was just built in the past, 6 months, or maybe it's a brand new that they're just moving into off their builder. And people say, oh, well, I don't need to get an inspection. Kind of explain to us why, even on those new construction homes, it's still very important to get an inspection.
Yeah, so I would recommend it on the new constructions for sure. A lot of them are getting built pretty quickly. Or their spec homes that are, the same subcontractors coming through and just kind of building those quick. There's been quite a few things that we have found that we can get repaired before they move in, which helps a lot because once they get moved in, it's usually harder to get them back out to do some of those repairs.
Right.
Some of the stuff we found, like insulation's been missing in one when we pop up in the attic. So somebody forgot to get the insulation in. I've seen the dishwasher ran with like cold water or toilets ran with hot water. And so just things that are getting, just plumbed the wrong way. Different stuff like that has been some of the stuff that we can usually catch.
Okay.
And then also a lot of times just getting the water heater lit for the first time and getting the furnace. And sometimes when you first turn that furnace on, for example, you're going to get that smell that kind of comes through. And that starts to scare people. So we
for
can
sure. You're
everything.
wondering, you're like, what's happening? Did they set it up wrong? If the gas isn't running right. So I know at my house, our new construction, we had our stove was kind of whistling at us for the first little while, and we were trying to figure out what was going on. And eventually, they came over and realized it was some regulator with the gas coming into the house. But it's a scary thing, especially when it's a new construction. You feel like, oh, I should be getting a perfect house, but that's just not usually the case.
Correct.
There's always going to be something here and there. And one thing that I have seen is a lot of builders who they just have their own inspector that they send over and they call that good. And would you still recommend having a third party come in and check it out rather than just the builder's inspector?
Absolutely, I would.
Yeah.
And part of that too, it's not to undermine anything with their inspection process or how they're building the homes, but that third party helps because we can explain, for example, for concrete or with drywall, some of that stuff's not going to cure perfectly. You might get some cracks and stuff, come the first few years of the home being built. And so if we can explain that to them as well, that also helps because then they know that it's also from a third party, but the house isn't always going to cure perfectly.
Yeah. No kidding.
So it gives a reality to it, but then it's also a nice detailed thorough inspection that we can make sure that everything's working how it should.
So there's two big things in southern Utah that we run into all the time. Number one is cracked roof tiles. It seems like almost every house has a cracked roof tile or two on there.
Even the new ones.
Even the newer ones are having those. So what I see that a lot where people freak out when they see a cracked roof tile. Is that just mean, okay, we've got water leaking through right away, or what does that usually mean if you see that on the report?
Yeah, so your roof tiles, if you have a few that have some cracked or started to slide down a little, that's probably 9 out of 10 houses, if not more, that we see that on. they have a membrane that they're actually going to lay down and then put the tile over the top. And the tile helps actually protect some of that membrane as well.
Okay.
So your tile is not the only thing that's bulletproof and waterproof in that house. But we still want to make sure that we're going back and getting those checked. And it should honestly be checked every couple of years.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get a few. I mean, even when I hang my Christmas lights up, I'll find a couple on my house here and there.
Right.
And it just happens. And the tile roofs, they're really nice because they're going to last a lot longer than your shingles or your asphalt fiberglass roof.
Yeah.
But they're known to slide and to crack.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a normal maintenance thing.
Not too hard to replace these things.
Not hard at all. Some people, you'll have them, they'll just slide them back in and get them sealed.
Yeah.
And then some people will actually just, slide those out and replace them with a new one. Sometimes you get discolorization.
Yeah, the colors can be a little bit off, but yeah.
And it's if you're selling a house and you have the tile roof and you have an extra stack of tiles, it's best just to leave them there, obviously, so we can use those to get replaced.
Very cool. So, and then the other one is the concrete, because I know a lot of contractors here in town, they'll say in this area, there's two different types of concrete. There's concrete that's cracked and concrete that just hasn't cracked yet. And what have you seen in terms of driveways, sidewalks, even foundation concrete here in St. George? I mean, is it something that's just constantly you're seeing cracks? And then how can you really tell a difference between a serious crack and something that's just cosmetic, essentially?
Yeah, so it hasn't been a real big thing as far as seeing many cracks that were,
serious,
that were real concerning.
Yeah.
A lot of times if you see like the elevations changing, like it's like a trip hazard, basically, we know that, we've got some more movement than we should.
Right.
If we're not seeing enough expansion joints being cut, then you're going to get a lot of cracking through that area as well. And then a lot of the other things that we'll see with the concrete is with your condensate drain lines from the AC and furnace units.
Okay.
Where that kind of discharges out onto like a sidewalk or a driveway, it'll start to spall.
Yeah,
and kind of just look like it's eroding away a little bit. So those are a few things to keep an eye on there. Or downspouts that aren't extended as well can kind of cause that spalling as well.
Okay.
But a few things to just keep an eye on. But a lot of it's if we're getting the level change and stuff like that, or we're getting, half-inch gaps.
And that's the thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've brought in some home buyers over to a house and they just see a little hairline crack going through part of the driveway sidewalk. And right away they point that out and say, oh, this is crack, and they have foundation issues. I said, well, maybe not. I mean, a lot of the time it's going to crack. You could have this replaced and it'll probably still crack.
Right.
But that's kind of a common misconception is the difference. And I've seen it as well when you do have a gap and it could be a tripping hazard, and then okay, maybe this is a little bit more significant than just the concrete settling a little bit. So settling, do you see big settling issues here in St. George still, or is that usually still within the first couple of years?
It hasn't been very often. Usually your new homes, for example, or any home for that matter, usually that settling is going to occur the first 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Your slabs, your driveways, your sidewalks, those are all poured separate from the foundation, obviously. So they're going to be two separate things, the way they settle. And then even just on stucco or drywall, you're going to get some of those the first few years of the home being built as well. And so you can patch them as you see them pop up, or you can kind of wait to let the home kind of, settle in and then repair things as we go there. Another thing that we'll kind of see cracking in that I get a lot of questions on is across the garages. So you'll get a crack across the whole ceiling.
I have seen that
in almost all the houses if they don't cut the little expansion joint across there. And the expansion joint basically just acts the same way that the concrete one would, but on the ceiling in the garage.
And can that be dangerous in a way if they?
Yeah, so it can definitely get dangerous in a way. The wider that those get, obviously anything that gets wide as far as our cracking, we're gonna have some big concerns with. But a lot of times, 9 out of 10, it's gonna be just hairline crack across there. But it goes all the way across. And sometimes that can bring up concern.
For sure. I mean, especially the longer that crack gets, the more, especially what I see is you get the 22-year-old girl who, her and her boyfriend are going out to buy their first house, and dad is the home inspector. Dad is always the home inspector. Always he goes in and those tiny little things, those are the things that are going to freak him out and to say, no, we're not buying this house because of A, B, and C. But that's actually one of the things I really like about how you've always done your home inspections is you don't just say, this is bad, this is horrible, you can't buy the house now, and just completely freak out the buyers, but you tell them how it is. You give them a chart of, this is something that you're going to need to watch out for and maybe do some maintenance in the future. This is something that probably should be looked at here pretty soon. And then this is something that needs to be fixed right away.
Right.
And is that something that you've always found it helpful in terms of just giving people a little bit more of a breakdown of exactly how bad the issue might be?
It is, and so I've kind of broken everything down by like a safety issue first. Obviously, that needs to get done now, right? And then age, normal maintenance or replaced is coming up. So that would be, for example, your safety would be a red item. Our orange items would be, the furnace and AC, or for example, might be working, but it might be from 1995, and so we know that it might not last a whole lot longer. It could go 5 more years. It could go 5 more weeks.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the stuff on that report, 70-80% of it a lot of the times is what I put as a blue item. And basically it's like, if you have a hairline crack in the garage or things like that, it's things you want to keep an eye on. You can kind of, touch up paint here or there, or, hardware on a door.
Right.
That's going to be the bulk of the reports. And we'll still have all that in my reports, but we're not going to try to, bring a whole big laundry list and scare them when they get to the walkthrough.
And you usually have a breakdown at the end as well, right? Yeah.
So
and most of the time you'll usually meet with them for 15, 20 minutes. When you're done with your inspection, you'll meet with the buyers or their agent as well.
Yeah, so usually about the last 30 minutes. So I like to get through the whole house, get everything done and get it out of the way. And that way I'm prepared for when they get there as well.
So you're saying you don't like it when the buyer is just following you around the whole time?
They get a better inspection if we can have time to get through that whole thing and just kind of do our normal checklist. Because I try to do every inspection with the same routine. And the reason why we do that is so that we can make sure everything's the same way and we're not just wandering in this room. And, it just makes it better. And that way when they get there, they already have a bunch of questions going on. We can kind of slow down. We can walk back through the house in the same way that I did the inspection. And we can show them where shutoffs are. We can go room by room and bring up, the bigger items. And it just kind of puts their mind a little bit more at ease and kind of has a good flow to it. And that way when they get their report, I'll send the report later that day.
Okay.
And they they already know the big items on there. And I mentioned to them, we're not going to cover every single item at the walkthrough, but we're going to hit all the main stuff and we're going to answer all the questions that you have every time. So,
and that's the biggest thing is, there's always going to be questions, and certain people have bigger concerns than others. Sometimes they may have had a house they lived in 10 years ago that had a very specific problem.
Right.
And they have a lot of questions about that very specific thing. And so that's a nice thing is that going to that last 30 minutes, you can actually go and ask specific questions if you need. But I found the same thing. I've done a couple inspections where the buyers, they want to be there. Sometimes even the sellers, they want to be right there for it. And I really have always thought it's like, okay, let's let the inspector get this done. Right. That way, any questions we have, he can walk us through the house and show you exactly what you're gonna need to do, and what's just things that you might need to know for the future as you own the home.
Yeah, and if they want to come the whole time, they're always more than welcome. But we just found that's been a little bit smoother, right? Yeah, kind of do it that way. And the other thing with that too is with that walkthrough portion is a lot of times when the clients get there, like you said, if they've had an issue with the previous home or something big that they've experienced, I usually try to ask them what their specific questions are up front. Because if I don't, and I'm showing them around everywhere and they're just kind of waiting to bring that up, and it's kind of just in the back of their mind and they're not really getting everything else. So if we can kind of I can find out what those concerns are, we can address those first.
Right.
And then they can still focus on, everything else also.
So how far out are you on inspections usually? Is it something that, hey, I need an inspection next week, or are you a few weeks out normally, or does it just depend on the time of year?
It depends on the time of year. Typically I'm only about 3 business days out, 2 or 3 even.
Yeah.
I usually need about 2 hours at the house on average, and then the half-hour walkthrough as well. And then the report stuff, I can get back home and write. So I can do 2 to 3 inspections. I usually will do 2 per day. But usually about 2 to 3 business days out, and reports always sent same day.
So you send the reports out the exact same day as the inspection?
Always the same day, yep.
And see, that's another really good thing, because I've seen at times where, say, somebody does an inspection on a Friday or Saturday, and then you don't get the report until Monday. With you, it's always been, if you have an inspection at 4 p.m., you're still going to get that inspection report that same evening, which is great, because that means you're going home and you're still working. Yeah. I know it'd be really easy for you to just go do your inspections and pile them up, and then you probably have 8 hours of busy work at home to do so that you can get the reports done. But I have always liked that about working with you, is that I know I'm going to get it quick.
Yeah. And what's helped me with that is I've hand built the template.
Yeah.
So everything that I've seen in the past, I now already have a note in there. So now I just can match it, take the picture, and then I can make little adjustments to it to reword it for that specific one. But a lot of the meat of the report's already in there. And then
well, in St. George,
stuff,
there's not a whole lot of differences in a lot of these houses here in town. I mean, of course, sometimes you get a humongous house that's completely customized, but I mean, you look at like Entz Builders, Salisbury, Sullivan, a lot of those houses are
similar.
They're very similar. Yeah. So interesting. Well, so of course, if you guys are currently getting ready to buy a house, or maybe if you're already under contract and have been thinking about getting an inspection and thinking maybe I don't need an inspection, I would highly recommend calling Colton. His number is at the bottom of the screen. It's 435-375-8257 with 3Sixty Home Inspections. And you said you've been doing this about 10 years?
Yep, I started in February of 2013. So,
okay.
And I just barely hit 3,900 inspections.
3,900 inspections.
Yep, so been going strong.
That's a lot of home inspections. How many a day are you usually averaging?
2 is about the average.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll do 3, just depending on the size and the age and stuff like that.
Does it also depend on time of year, just with daylight?
It does, absolutely.
Can you do a lot of the stuff at dark?
No, I don't like to do anything at dark.
Okay.
As far as at the house, I mean, I'll do computer work and stuff, obviously, but I don't like to have any limited visibility or anything like that. It just, the more we can help ourselves, we should.
So here's a funny question that I get a lot when people move to St. George, and I feel like you're going to know more about this than anybody else. So, and feel free to be as honest as you possibly can on this. But I get a lot of people who they come here and they're terrified of the snakes and spiders. And I tell them, I say, hey, I've played probably thousands of rounds of golf out here and seen literally no rattlesnakes whatsoever on the golf courses, which is where they're going to live.
Right.
I mean, you see a couple little blow snakes or whatever, and of course we're going to get some spiders here and there. But how bad is it? Because you're the one who's getting up in the crawl spaces and going up and in the attics, underneath the houses. I mean, do you ever really see snakes around residential areas, or the spiders? How bad is it?
Snakes wise, I haven't really seen much.
Okay.
I've seen like some snake skins maybe once or twice in the crawl space.
Yeah.
But nothing that's been real.
Usually underneath the house somewhere.
Correct. There was a kind of a funny story going back. So I did one over in Hurricane. It was in like an HOA area manufactured home. And I got underneath. I do the crawl space at the very end after we can run the water and everything. So I crawl underneath there, and I'm crawling back through. And there was a boa constrictor that had got out from one of the neighbors and had been gone for like 2 weeks.
And he was just living under there.
Curled up in the crawl space. And the neighbor was across the street, not the neighbor that owned it, but
was she out there calling for her boa constrictor, yelling its name?
Well, I'm trying to get out of that crawl space as quick as I could because it scared me so bad.
No kidding.
And she looks over and she's like wondering what in the world is going on. I finally told her, and that's when she told me that, the neighbor's looking for that. But that was my snake experience, but it was from a
So
pet
did the neighbor
snake.
go down underneath and get it?
I guess so. I was out of there.
You weren't going to go down and grab the snake?
No, I'm not a snake guy, but thank goodness I don't see them very often, so it's not too bad. But.
So my funny snake story here in St. George is I had a lady, and she was very scared of snakes. And she wasn't from here, and I remember that while we were at the house looking, because we had seen a few different houses, but while we were at that specific house, I see in the backyard, and it was just like a gopher snake type thing. But I'm sitting in the living room. The windows are facing this backyard, and the backyard goes up this hill, and I see a gopher snake. And this is the one lady who I've never seen so scared of snakes. And she's not looking, right? She's turning the other way, and I'm looking, pretty much talking face to face to her, and behind her is this window, and I see this gopher snake plain as day just go straight up the side of the hill. It's like, oh no, please don't turn around. Please don't turn around. She didn't end up buying that house, and it wasn't because of the snake, but I never told her there's a snake behind you because I knew that could have been bad. But that was my one snake experience, is like the one person who was that scared of them. Of course, it had to be right there. It was the one time I saw. I said, oh no, this lady's gonna don't turn around.
Yeah, don't.
She won't even move here now. So, But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a funny fear. I mean, I know a lot of people, if they move to Florida, everybody's worried, oh, they have alligators, and they especially might have snakes there that get in. But St. George, I mean, it's so developed now that, I mean, unless you're really out in the far borders, and I've even seen up in like New Harmony area, I see a lot more snakes up there, even though it's a lot cooler climate.
Yeah, I do too.
It's much more of the everything's a little bit more spread out, kind of more farmland type stuff, and so that's a little bit more where you're going to get it. Even though it's here, it's a little bit hotter,
right?
And a little bit more of that desert feel. When it's this developed, I mean, they're gonna spread out. They're gonna go away from all these.
They don't want to really be around it as much as we don't want them around. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. That is, I mean, I've always been much more afraid of spiders than snakes, but I've always thinking sometimes I see you guys going into the crawl space. It's like, I wouldn't go in there, but that's why we hire you, is you guys take care of all that. So
yeah, and it's important to have someone that will go down underneath there. And again, that's why you don't want to bypass inspections on that, because you want to check all the plumbing, you want to check the drains. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you'll find under there that the seller doesn't even know about, because nobody goes down there. Or there could be, wiring that's loose that, could be of concern for electrical hazard and stuff. So, and that's also why, back to kind of that routine of how we do it, whenever I know that the house has the crawl space, I just go down there at the end, and we just want to make sure we can run everything we can.
Right.
And that way, after I've already checked the bathrooms, I've already checked the kitchen, I know that none of the sinks or anything are leaking, so I can actually leave those on while I go underneath.
Yeah.
And that way it helps a lot, because you can see the drips a lot easier. You can see if there's anything going on. You're gonna see it while you're under there.
So when I lived in the Bay Area for a few years, termites were a very big deal. A lot more moisture out there, and you would see these houses covered in the big, colorful tent.
Parachute looking.
Yep, and you're like, what's going on? But it was just they had a termite problem. They had to do that. So what is it like in St. George? Do we is that still an issue that could arise, or people should not worry about it in Southern Utah?
No, it definitely can be around, and I've seen and found some that have. And a lot of the times, for example, like there's usually some telltale signs we can kind of see if there's moisture or wood that's in contact with the dirt outside, siding, stuff like that. All that stuff's going to be more conducive to maybe having the potential to have those.
Okay.
I have a couple little probes and things, and we do look for signs of the termites as we do the inspections, obviously.
Can you see them at all?
Not very often, and a lot of times those pest control companies, they've got more tools, they've got more specialty items for that, and a lot of times I'll have clients that will just have someone come out and just do a separate pest inspection, look at termites, and they're usually only there 20-30 minutes, but they, like I said, we can just get more detailed,
right?
And if that's something that clients want on top of what I look for, that's another thing that we can add and we can take care of, so it can still be like a one-stop shop. They don't have to call so-and-so for the sewer scope, and so-and-so for the pool inspection, and so-and-so for the termites and stuff. We can take care of it all.
If you open up a kitchen cabinet and you just see, okay, this place is infested with some type of insect or whatever it's going to be, will you right away, you'll just do your own report right there, or will you also recommend, hey, I would also have a pest inspector come over and check this out as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm going to note that in the report for them, and then when they get to the walkthrough, we'll obviously look at it inside, and I will recommend having a pest control company come out,
right?
Because they're going to have that treated anyway.
Yeah.
So they can come out and they can get that taken care of. And for example, like with the termites, sometimes you can see like the tracks on the wall, or just little subtle things, or kind of just almost looks like dust, like debris kind of along baseboards and stuff. So there's a few things you can still see. And then if you start pushing kind of on those areas, sometimes it's a little soft or.
And does moisture have anything to do with it? Have you seen?
It absolutely can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so whenever we have that, any type of inkling there, a lot of times that wall's going to end up needing to get cut anyway. So it's just because we can't see everything, we know that there's area of concern there,
right?
And we're going to want to cut into that.
Interesting. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Anything else inspection wise that you wanted to mention or kind of recommend to people when they're thinking maybe I should get a home inspection or maybe I shouldn't?
I think one thing that would really help, and it would help the sellers more than anything in the whole transaction, is making sure things are getting serviced. Furnaces and water heaters, all that stuff is obviously big items for home buyers. A lot of times, if you can have service records of those, it's going to put their mind at ease a lot.
Right.
Get rid of a lot of things that otherwise could be problematic and cause bumps in the road for the transaction itself. So just making sure things are serviced, making sure things are accessible for the inspector to get to. Attic access, crawl space, stuff like that. A lot of times that stuff's blocked, or like the electrical panel's covered or blocked. I can't get to it. We can't move personal items. So it just makes it a lot easier for everyone, so we don't have to reschedule, come back and look at the attic or the electrical panel. So just kind of keeping up on all that type of stuff so everything can go smoothly.
Have you had sellers who specifically don't want you to go into certain areas of a house?
I have. Yeah, it's not very often.
Okay.
There's been a couple times, and then we just have to note that and let the
the
buyer know. And
there could be something that isn't getting disclosed here because they won't let you see it.
Yep, and again, it's their home, so our hands, are tied.
And
we're only going to evaluate and touch and work with the components of the home.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be moving stuff, having it potentially break or, get damaged or go missing or something like that. It's just not worth it. And so with our insurance and everything, we just can't do it. And so if that happens, obviously we do reschedule, go back. We don't charge the buyer any extra because it's not their fault either.
Right.
But just getting things cleared up before just helps the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, wonderful. Again, you guys can call Colton at 435-375-8257. His number is at the bottom of the screen, and he is with 3Sixty Home Inspections. You're the owner of 3Sixty Home Inspections as well, right?
Yep, correct. We're just a family company, so my wife and I just run it and keep things going.
And do you have other inspectors within the company yet, or now you're doing everything?
And I'm not sure that I want to. I kind of want to keep it smaller. I want to keep it personal with the clients and realtors and stuff that I've had the chance to work with.
And see, I like that because who's doing the inspection.
Right.
I've seen a lot of times where it's a company and they have 6-7 different home inspectors, and okay, 2 of them are really good, but the others are just, you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah. With
you, it's like, hey, you're going to get Colton. Colton's your guy. He's your guy. And so you could book straight through him. Do you book just straight over the phone, or do they go to their website?
So we can do it multiple ways. So you could just call or text. That's a cell phone number. So either one works there. You can also email me. I do have the website as well. It's 360inspectutah.com.
Okay.
And you can actually book online as well. So even if you have to get something scheduled on a Saturday or Sunday and I'm not able to get back to you right away, you can actually go straight to the website and you can just put the information in and we can plug it right in.
Awesome. Well, and I love that you can do it quickly. I mean, I love that you can book on a Monday and you're probably going to be in there definitely before the end of the week, if not even by Wednesday or Thursday. You'll be in there and getting things done. So
absolutely,
that's very cool. I'll put all of his information in the description below. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, Apple, wherever you're at, leave us a comment of what questions you might have for Colton. And if you have other questions, we'll make sure to get Colton on there and have him reach out to you as well so that he can answer any specific questions, because I know a lot of times you're going to get people who maybe have had a really bad experience in the past, and sometimes you might get an inspection and you feel like that inspector was just trying to get it done, get it out of there quick. It's okay to get that second opinion, and sometimes even more than that. So feel free, even if you're just concerned about a couple things, call Colton, have him come over and check out whatever you need to have checked out. And I wouldn't tell you to just get a home inspection only when you're buying a house. I mean, if you've lived in there for 10, 15 years, I mean, I would say, how often would you recommend getting an inspection if you're living in your home?
Probably about that.
About every 10 to 15 years, just to see what's going on.
Right, because there's a lot of stuff that you're just never going to look at. You just, you live in what you live in. You're not looking at the other components. And
look at it this way. I mean, that's not a very big expense to have a home inspection compared to what could happen. I mean, that home inspector might just find something out that say, hey, if we don't get this fixed, you could easily be, $6,000-$7,000 or more in the hole real quick. But because we got this fixed, it's only going to be a $300 repair for you.
Yeah, and like age-wise as well, one thing that I'd recommend having done is the homes that are 20, 25 years old or more, or if they have big trees and stuff in the front yard, getting the sewer scope done as well.
Okay.
Because you don't know it's a problem until it's a big problem. And
a tree root suddenly intrudes onto the
it causes that separation or blockage to that drain line.
So you're seeing that especially on the older homes.
I am, and I mean that can add up really, really quickly. So that's something that we will usually try to discuss.
You're gonna have to destroy the yard to just get in there and fix it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
So that's one thing I would do. Another thing we've done quite a bit of recently is with the new constructions, even though they haven't got the inspection up front, I'm getting a lot of phone calls around the 10-month mark after they live there.
Okay.
Before the warranty goes out.
Yeah.
To come, just make sure everything's still going as it should, or and kind of getting that third party report as well.
Yeah.
So if there's anything they can try to get covered before that warranty's out, sometimes that can help with that as well.
Well, very cool. Thanks so much for joining us, Colton. We've always been talking. We got the appraiser in here a few weeks ago, and we said we need a home inspector. And I knew you were the guy I use. I've been working a lot more on listings, but I know with Team Honey, we've been using Colton for most of our stuff whenever it's needed. And honestly, anytime you're buying a house, and sometimes even before you even sell your home, it's good to have that home inspection. I even feel for a lot of sellers, get that home inspection first and just put that within the documents of your listing. That way people can see, hey, these people are actually disclosing everything right off at the start. Now, if you're buying a home that already has that home inspection, you can still get a home inspection for yourself. But just because you're not a buyer, if you're a seller, it might still be good to have that home inspection ready. Also, so that you can note on there, say, okay, this we had 3 broken roof tiles. Here's a note, we've already fixed these for you now. And people can see, wow, these people have already gone through and done everything they needed to do on this home inspection to get it done. So give Colton a call, get on his website. All his information is in the description below. But thanks so much for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks,
Awesome.
Colton.
Thank you. Appreciate it.